Thank you for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. Just yesterday, we aired my interview with wrestling champion Anthony Robles. The guy is world class. He's second to none. And I thought that he shared so much wisdom as he told his story about, growing up with this disability, which he certainly didn't perceive it as a disability, but growing up with this disability to become a high school and college wrestling champion, and then be so unstoppable in terms of your mindset that you go on to influence the world through speaking and educating and just being a motivational guy, so much so that a movie had to be made about your life. The guy is just an absolute amazing human being. And I think that there was some really powerful lessons that came out of that conversation. These powerful lessons, the things that really made Anthony Robles, in my opinion, unstoppable. See, Anthony was born without his leg, as we discussed, and he became this, high school and NCAA wrestling champion. And he had so many big and amazing accomplishments, but what stuck with me even more than those accomplishments was why he fought so hard, the why behind why he was doing what he was doing. His words have kind of been echoing in my mind ever since. And I think they might change the way you view challenge and resilience and entrepreneurship as well. Let's talk through some of those things that we learned from Anthony. First, when we were talking about his early life, he had shared with me that he was motivated at a pretty young age to prove people wrong. That was what I would call the fire starter for him, proving people wrong. Now, I can't imagine, being in his position, being disabled, not having a leg, and feeling that doubt and that constant judgment. I think he had said to us that he's well aware of the fact that people are looking at him all of the time. From the time he was a child through today, he knows that when he's in a store, a grocery store, let's say, people are looking at him. Anywhere he goes, people are probably doubting that he's capable of certain things. But he was motivated at a really young age to prove everybody wrong. And he turned this judgment that people had about him, this doubt, this underestimation, in the fuel. As you may recall, when he talked about his early wrestling career in high school, a lot of people felt bad for him. They had, they doubted him. They judged maybe how it was all going to play out. And what the funny thing with that is, not too long after, when he eventually became a state champion as a junior and a senior in high school, that doubt or that those feelings around his disability turned to feelings that he was at an advantage. To me, that was mind-blowing. That people in the wrestling community started describing his missing leg as an opportunity or an advantage for Anthony. See, he really turned everyone's judgment, doubt, and underestimation in the fuel. And he became so good that they had to use his disability. They discussed using his disability as an advantage for his success. I think there's a lot of what Anthony shared here about proving people wrong that ties to entrepreneurship. Many here at the No Days Off Nation, you're building businesses, and most great founders start out doubted. Maybe your service is too basic, or your product is too simple. Your vision is too bold or too big. People think you're naive. People think you're crazy. Why would you give up the comfort of, say, the corporate world? However, I think there's an insight here, and we could draw it from Anthony. Use that criticism as an entrepreneur as fuel, not to lash out, but to rise. I think entrepreneurs are often told they're crazy, that the market won't care, that they should play it safe. If you're hearing that, I would contend that's probably pretty good, because then you're on the right path. I think the next thing that we could draw from Anthony, or one of the many things, but the next thing on my mind, and I love this phrase he used. He said, if you're unchallenged, you're unchanged. It was a quote, I think, that came from his mother, who clearly has a very special place in his heart. His mother said, if you're unchallenged, you're unchanged. She said, never let a challenge be an excuse. Never let a challenge be an excuse. See, most people run from challenges, but challenge is, frankly, the very thing that forges you. I mean, you only learn, you only develop when you're being pushed, when you're having to solve. Comfort is the enemy in some regard. I think you probably personally have a story, be it a personal story or a story in business or a client story, where adversity actually became the turning point for you. In my personal world, roughly 5 years ago, I had a business partnership fall out. And I remember for a moment, I was like, man, this is tough. Maybe I have to unwind the business. Maybe, we've got to go a different path. And what initially appeared to be adversity, it became an actual big turning point for me. It forced me to reevaluate partnership. It forced me to align with other individuals. It forced me to build differently than I did the first time around. It became a turning point. So I think every fire, every failed launch, every tough hire, every scary investment, it could actually be an opportunity to evolve. Because entrepreneurs aren't defined by their best days. They're shaped by how they respond on the worst ones. Which brings me to one of my last takeaways for the day from Anthony, which is this idea around flipping the frame. See, Anthony didn't see being born without a leg as an excuse. He saw it as an edge. And I think entrepreneurs can do the same. What perceived weakness could actually become your unique advantage. Anthony was perceived as disabled. The weakness was his missing leg, but that perceived weakness became his unique advantage because it forced him to work differently, work smarter, develop a wrestling style that others simply didn't have and couldn't contend with. So you as an entrepreneur can do the same. What are the perceived weaknesses that you may have that can become your unique advantage? Maybe a founder who has to learn how to sell out of necessity, or a small budget that forces radical creativity, or a failure that turns into a reinvention. These are the weaknesses that could become unique advantages. See, your biggest disadvantage might just be your unfair advantage in disguise. I think it's something really to think about. So as we wrap up today, I want to give you a couple action steps. Number one, I want you to write down one challenge you're facing right now. And then I want you to ask, if this were happening for me instead of to me, what would I learn? Write down one challenge that you have in front of you right now. Then ask, if this were happening for me instead of to me, what would I learn? And then my second action step for you, I want you to identify one doubter. Find that one doubter. Just identify that one doubter. Not to spite them. I don't want that, but to motivate you. Use their doubt to sharpen your edge and to stay focused. See, Anthony Robles didn't just wrestle opponents in my mind. He wrestled limiting beliefs, and he won. And I think you can too. If you're feeling challenged right now, good. Stay in the arena. Stay in the fire, because if you're unchallenged, then again, you're unchanged. I think it's really something we should all reflect on. That's all I have for you today, the No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it.